Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Network. My name is Chad Smelzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Jolene Colter, who is the Director of Purchasing of the City of Aurora, and Jessica Price, who's the MWBE Coordinating Manager. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I hope I got that right this time. So, man, that was a lot. Anyway, my thank you guys so much for joining us on the Infrastructure Network. We talk a lot about civil infrastructure, roads, bridges, water, and all that stuff that's going on out in that side of our communities. But we really never hear about the purchasing side and the procurement side of what happens, for construction projects or just purchasing direct, in general for a city. And Jolene, I'm curious to learn more about that. And Jessica, what the MWBE kind of outlook looks like into purchasing. But Jolene, first, let's learn a little bit more about you. Like, when did you start? Like, what made you want to become a purchasing director? Like, how did this all start with you?
Something I kind of fell into a little bit. I actually am originally from Minnesota. Worked with Super Value, which is Cub Foods, Jewel, all of that now. But I worked at the warehouse and did inventory control and internal accounts payable auditing for 11 years there. Moved out to Washington State and ended up in a small city called Edgewood and was working in their accounts payable, payroll. It's a very small city. I did a little bit of budgeting, payroll, and purchasing. So kind of got my foot in that way. And then when I moved out to Illinois here in Aurora, I ended up with a position. I think it was called confidential secretary or executive. I don't even administrative aide. I don't know how it was in the purchasing division. And
Yeah.
this has been something I've been doing now for 14 years. So
Oh, wow.
with the city of Aurora. So
That's great. Well, thanks for the background. Jessica, how about you?
I actually also fell into purchasing. I stayed at home with my four kids for 13 years, and then I just was looking for an opportunity. I tested, and I actually came into the city as an account clerk, and then just moved my way up to an admin aide, and then a purchasing supervisor. And then we were creating this new program and we were interviewing people. And then someone said, well, what about you? So we stopped interviewing people and decided, I've been here 12 years now. So that I had the exposure and the experience with vendors to know how to try to create a new program.
Wow. 26 years of combined experience here in purchasing. I love it.
yep.
This is great. This is awesome. And you both moved up within the city, from,
Mm-hmm.
the positions you had, and you moved up to directors and coordinating managers and stuff like that. That's awesome. And that's one thing I love about the public sector. You can always work your way up, it seems. I've seen a lot of field guys in public works that move up to public works director positions and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's one of those things that's unique in the public sector that you don't really always get the chance in the private sector, but it is one of the benefits for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, what do you love about purchasing? Is there something you love about it? There's got to be something, right? For doing it for combined 26 years. Jolene, what do you think?
Well, I love my coworkers. I'm very fortunate. I get to the people I work with every day is great. But I do love everything. Every day is new, and every day is a different. You may say challenge or opportunity, however you want to phrase it. I mean, there's always something new going on or something new to approach. It's not always black and white. There is
Yeah,
that gray, but you do have to make that work and figure out the best way and the best ethical and legal way to make everything work. So,
yeah, makes a lot of sense. How about you, Jessica?
I love coming to work every day. It's nuts. It's crazy. Like I've done bids for sniper rifles, drones,
yeah.
toilet paper. I mean, you never know what it's going to be, and you get to learn. Like when I did the drone bid, I had to research and learn, and you find out all kinds of new things that you never knew about before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's got to be unique because there's so many vendors out there. There's so much of these different products and services, and you're getting probably knocked on the door all the time, people trying to, get into
Mm-hmm.
bids, and, there's some, people that always aren't telling you the truth in certain
Mm-hmm.
aspects. So there's a lot of risk involved too. So you have to do a lot of due diligence on your end. So I imagine there's a lot of time spent, like you said, researching this kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
the last thing you want to do is put out a bid for something that, is not accurate, and you might get the wrong bidder, and
Mm-hmm.
then deal with the consequences of that. Can you guys speak to a little bit more of some of that experience, of like some of the maybe stories you might have? Threw that at you just to
Well, I mean, there's always, we always get people who come in. I have a lot of vendors. We help with the technology. We're fortunate enough where we have a third party help us with our technology purchases. That's kind of, I don't have a huge staff here. We are very small. It's Jessica, and we have a purchasing specialist and a confidential secretary at the moment that handle all our informal and formal bidding. It's not many people for probably, I think we put out 100 and probably about nearly 200 bids last year, formal and informal.
wow.
So that's a lot just for our small little group. And so we have a group that helps us with our technology side. We've learned a lot, and we have a lot of vendors who come in and say, I can give you this. I can give you this. Well, that's great, but we have to make sure we're doing things the right way, competitively bidding it in some format, whether
Yeah.
it's a request for proposal, request for qualifications, and then narrowing that search from there. And even copier companies, oh, I can give you this. Well, that's great. I would love you to participate. Here's how you can participate. And we're very lucky, and we have a website that has always been probably more advanced than some of the others. Um, our website has for over 10 years had the ability to notify people of opportunities. You could
Nice.
subscribe to a list and people could be notified. That was a lot even before the e-procurement systems and all of that. Our system already did that. So we were very fortunate in that, but we try to just encourage everybody. This is where you want to go. This is how you want to see it. And it's a lot of, you feel like you're repeating, but it's giving somebody else the information that they need to participate in the opportunities. So
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of due diligence there, and a lot of, yeah. Go ahead,
We
Jessica.
make it very clear, like we don't answer any questions directly to one vendor. We always make sure that all the same information is given to all the bidders so that everyone has a fair chance.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Is fair accountability and transparency. I spent 20 years of just working with public works side, on the civil infrastructure and sewer and water stuff for a long time, and a lot of those projects ended up going to the engineers to handle. But for contractors, like in that world, it's like we have all these different materials that
mm-hmm,
we pitch that we're, oh, these are the greatest materials ever,
mm-hmm,
put them in your sewers or water systems and stuff like that. And these poor engineers are kind of like you guys. They don't have a lot of those resources to like validate and vet this
mm-hmm,
information, right? So it's like really hard for them to put out a specification that's really good, because there's so many different varieties of materials and stuff. So how do you guys overcome some of those like bids that just, they get put together, and sometimes they're not as easy to I guess facilitate? I'm not sure how to describe that. Is there something that I'm trying to get to there? I don't know exactly where I'm going with that.
I think it's a lot of discussion, and being as clear as you can be in your specifications. You want to talk with the person who initiates the bid and really think about exactly what are we looking for. And if we don't know what we're looking for, we'll do like a request for qualifications and get more information to be able to do that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
There's
makes sense.
times where we'll put, we may state something that we've always used. I mean, and that's a lot of things here. You find when you're a city this large, we've always done it this way. We've always used this product. Well, unless there's really a good reason for it, we want to ensure that we have the opportunity to look at other things. So if we will use we're pretty firm here about putting in due dates and times so people can ask questions, and we have time to respond and get those out to everybody to respond and provide a good response or bid proposal or however that proposal is going to come in. We ask for, if you have an equivalent, that has to be submitted by that time too, for review and determination. If it's an equivalent, that will be accepted. We always will give that option, make sure that our engineers or whoever has time to look at it and say, oh, yep, this is something I could use. It's not something I knew. Yes, we're good to work with this. So
Yeah, that's important. Just trying to figure out exactly what as equal is. That's the hardest part I found, is like we'd work with an engineer, for example, and we had a product that we thought was the best, right? Obviously, everybody does is pitching a product. You hear it all the time, I'm sure. It's like, we got the best thing. So we put it in the spec, and then an as equal, another company would come in and say, well, we have an as equal. But one thing I found is, like, we used to call it out. We used to be like, oh, well, let's do lab testing on it and see if it really is. And that's one thing that, really, when the specifications came, to the, I guess, the point of like accountability and, making sure that they were going to stand by their word that it was an as equal and stuff like that. So
yes,
there's all the different ways you can put specs together, I've noticed, and just make sure that you can, try and be fair and transparent, but also get, what you really want in that material.
well, yeah, I mean, it's taxpayer dollars. We don't want to spend them wastefully. We want to make sure we're not going back to, whether it's a sewer or water main, we don't want to go back to that site in 6 months because something didn't work. That's a lot of labor, a lot of work, and a lot of money just wasted. Even if the contractor is going to pay for the repairs, it's not beneficial for the residents. So,
yeah, then you got to put out the notice and everything else, and
oops.
Yeah, we made a mistake. Yeah.
So
it's never good.
no.
Let's talk about the minority participation, because that was one thing that was really hard for contractors, at least in that civil infrastructure space, to find minority business participation in those bids. What is Aurora doing for that? It sounds like you're on top of that, Jessica.
I am. We created this business enterprise program. So we're doing a lot of things. I work together closely with Michelle Clark, our equity and diversity director. And one thing that we do, tons of things we do. We do events. We are having an event at the end of January where we're taking all of our decision packages and putting them out to the public so they can see ahead of time what we're working on for this year. We are working with the unions to get out information about our program and encouraging them to have minority participation. What else? So we have events all through the year, though. So that's just our first one. We do how to do business with the City of Aurora. We offer translation services. We what else have we done, Jolene?
We do a lot of how to do business with the city of events. Those ones, I feel like we bring those out, and there's 150 people that sign up we try to do it once a quarter at this point in time. And it's good to get people, how you do business with the government is very different than what you do in the public sector. There's just requirements, and it's always hard for me to say, we have great vendors, we have fabulous vendors, but because you have a lawnmower doesn't make you somebody who can come and do our landscaping or our mowing at the parks. It's not that easy. And so there's a lot of stuff that goes behind it. So, it's a lot of explaining to vendors what we need, giving them free resources they can go to.
Yeah, I mean, we want them to be ready, willing, and able. So we are partnering with a lot of other groups. Like, we have the Small Business Development Center at Wabansie, where people can learn how to begin a business, how to do budgeting. And then we also, SBDC works with Apex, which is another group that helps with actually government bidding, and they'll go through an actual bid with someone and teach them how to fill it out and get it to us. So we're also joining with our local chambers and just making sure that everyone knows there's a lot of free resources to help these groups, and they also will help you become certified. We're accepting the state of Illinois MWBE certification at this time, and that's what we're encouraging vendors to do. So we also, Michelle from the equity and diversity side will follow up directly with these people, meet with them, show them what all of their resources are. And we're just putting people together as much as we can. We're trying to get primes and subs to work together. Just networking and getting all these people to realize that there's a ton of free resources. A lot of people think that nothing is free, so they're scared to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's some of what we're doing.
That's amazing. You don't see it or hear, at least I don't, a lot of cities doing that stuff. And that's one thing I've always talked about is when I go to communities and I see procurement, and then I see the opportunities that are within that community that should take procurement tax dollars and reinvest it back into the community by educating them on how to build businesses and how to, work with the cities and government, you know what I'm saying? Just like there's a lot of money there to be put back into the community to grow the tax base. So it really helps everyone out and grow. Right. So that's the goal is to, use our procurement dollars wisely. But I also see where a lot of the procurement dollars go outside the community and, it benefits another state or it benefits another, city or town or whatever. It's part of the process because not every vendor is living in the city of Aurora, for example, they're outside. But if you could just start focusing those dollars where you guys, sounds like you guys are, trying to do, especially when it comes to minority business, that's going to be big. If we can
the mayor's initiative is to make it an even playing field for everyone in our community. And we also do have a local preference ordinance where if you're within a certain percentage of the lowest bidder, they can match that amount. So we do also value local vendors for sure.
Yeah.
And it's valuing local vendors without spending more tax dollars. So, some areas, when this first initially kicked off, I think we didn't make them match, if I recall. It was if it was lowest bidder, they would, and a local vendor was within a percentage, but that was paying more, and that was not really where we wanted to go. So a couple years after we initially rolled it out, we moved it to a local vendor within 5% could match the lowest bid. They have the opportunity to match it. If they choose not to, there's no harm, no foul. Not every business can absorb that. That's okay. But it does allow for local businesses to match. And we're not going to stop using a local vendor because they didn't do it.
Right.
That's, so we want to give them the opportunity. If they can't do it, that's okay. We just keep the lowest bidder then.
Yeah. Talking about lowest bidder, that's always a challenging place.
Lowest responsible bidder.
I know, right? Responsible. And that's been the thing is like, how do we know with all the things, you do a lot of research and you do a lot of background. Jessica, you mentioned that you got to do a lot of due diligence, but lowest bidder doesn't always mean, the best right. value for what you're trying to get. So you have to be very careful. Can you describe to just the audience and the civil infrastructure side, like what you really look for when someone does submit a bid and it's, it is maybe lowest bidder, but maybe there is second lowest bidder, and how you guys determine, who's responsible versus the other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. You want to take this?
We do ask, you to show us your experience. We're not going to turn someone away if maybe this is their first time doing a larger project. But if you're you usually do $25,000 projects and you try to win a $3 million bid, maybe you're not ready yet. We would also definitely check references. talked to other cities that have worked with them. But I mean, they need to be ready, willing, and able to work, and they need to have experience to some extent. You kind of move up the ladder with projects, and we want them to grow and become larger businesses, but also not overextend themselves where they're going to not be able to do the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's important.
And for the city of Aurora, we have a responsible bidder ordinance. We established that in 2010. So right before I started here, this ordinance went through, and it is an apprenticeship program, more or less. The ordinance states that you have to be a responsible bidder with an apprenticeship program approved through the Department of Labor. That does not mean you have to be a union. That just means you have to have a program, and there are resources out there for people to get an apprenticeship program, an approved Department of Labor apprenticeship program. It's very rare, but they do exist. And so that's a big thing that we have with the city that makes you a responsible bidder or not. Unfortunately, we've had to turn down some lowest bidders because they don't have that program, or they're not. One of our vendors said, I hire all the local trades from your area, but they weren't part of the apprenticeship program. So they themselves, as the general contractor, didn't have it, but their subcontractors would have. And that's not how our ordinance reads. So we had to, move on to the next lowest responsible bidder. So
yeah.
And that is a way that we know they've gone through an apprenticeship program. We work closely with the unions. We talk with the unions a lot, and we know they're getting a lot of training. They get extra training every year. They have to do so much training through their union program. So, I mean, that's another way that we know they're going to be able to perform for us.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place, a good apprenticeship program. I totally forgot that some cities had that program set up. So that's great that you guys have that in place.
Yeah, we were far ahead of a lot of people. We're hearing about it now in the last 6 months or so. We're hearing about a lot of cities coming up with them, and they're out there. Does anybody have this? What do they do? What do they look for? And it's like, okay, these are some of the things we ask them to submit to us. They have to be current. That's the big thing. They get these certificates from 1999 or 1968, and that's what they'll send. And so quite a few years back, one of our department heads said, well, I want language in here that says they have to provide a letter that's current, showing that they're still current with their apprenticeship program. So that's something we've implemented in our documents, that yes, we request these letters within the last 6 months to a year to say, yes, they are current with their apprenticeship program and the certificate's still valid. So
yeah, that sounds like a lot of information to track.
Yes.
A lot.
So, you go, oh yeah, we want to turn these bids right around. When we get them in, we are getting to a point where we will have those documents online. We'll be receiving all our bids electronically, but until then it's still paper, and we look through them and move forward. So
yeah, and that's the thing we always dealt with, I should say, a lot of engineers that got to keep their CEUs, credits up, education credits and stuff like that. And the same thing with the applications of materials and for construction. There has to be guys and girls that are certified to apply the material and understand how to apply it, right? Because they can win a bid, but if their crew doesn't understand how to apply any of the products they're bidding, or they won awarded or whatever, that can be very detrimental to the impact of the project after it's applied.
Yeah, but that's what we find. And unfortunately, some of them, a lot of these firms might be coming from out of state, and they say, well, we're going to hire your local groups trades there and do. Well, those crews have never worked together. So what makes me feel comfortable that you are going to have a smooth running project when these people have never worked together?
Yeah.
To know that it's going to go well. So
luckily, we haven't had a project, knock on wood, go bad in years. I mean, I can only think of one instance in my 12 years that something has not been completed and didn't go well. I literally won in 12 years. So
Yeah.
I think we vet people pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds like you guys have a really good comprehensive system. That's important. There's always been challenges, on the engineering side, for, like I said, for them to make sure that they're, putting in the right materials and things like that.
Mhm.
There's always been the pressure for that for them to happen, because they're getting vendors coming to them just as much as you guys are
Mhm.
too, to what I call influence the spec, so to speak. Right?
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm really known for that stuff, and that's one of the things. Is if you ever saw my website, you would know that I'm very for transparent and making sure there's fair,
Mhm.
construction projects out there. How
Absolutely.
would you guys? Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing.
You're gonna say? Oh, okay. So I was going to ask, is like, we only have a little bit more time left. What are some of the future goals for your department, and what you look forward to in the future here?
Well, we definitely are increasing our MWBE program. We have another employee that we're looking for to help with that program, and I think it's just going to grow over time. Um, we definitely every year keep growing and doing more projects.
Mhm.
I mean, Mayor Irvin has done a phenomenal job on growing the city. I mean,
Yeah.
we have done more and more every year to fix things, and it's been really cool to see because I feel like we kind of we kind of are a part of everything in the city. If I look around, I bid that, I bid that, I bid that, it's cool to be a part of it. And he's done a lot to really grow our city and make the things that are already here better, or let's demolish it and build something great.
Yeah.
So for me, I just think we're going to keep growing and have more and more projects.
Yeah.
And I've seen that through the last 14 years. I feel like every year, oh, engineers never even posted their bids to the city's website when I started here. I mean, they just did their own thing and told me when a bid opening was happening. I'm like, whoa, I need to be more involved, which
Yeah.
is a good and bad thing because
Right.
you feel like you ask for more work. But it's great. I mean, you're more and more involved in projects and you see more. And every year we feel like, okay, we're making efficiencies here. We can take on these additional projects. We should really be more involved with X part of the evaluation process and more involved with this. And this allows us to be more involved. And it's great for us to see that happen. So,
Yeah. I tell you, I moved to Aurora 15 years ago from Pennsylvania, and the way the city was 15 years ago to now,
mhm.
wow,
Yes,
completely different. I mean, I kind of get chills saying it right now, because I love downtown now compared to what it was 15 years ago, for sure.
yes.
Tremendous transformation there. If you had to end this podcast and give advice to contractors who are bidding on, roads, sewer, bridges, things like that, whatever,
Mhm.
civil infrastructure wise, what advice would you give them before we end this?
Give us your best price.
And participate. There's a lot of vendors who say, oh, it's just too much work. I don't want to. Well, then you don't get involved and you're not part of those changes and you're not part of it. And we do our best to give people ample time to respond. We want, if you have questions, ask them. Even if it's before a bid is ever out, call purchasing, ask us. We are here to answer any kind of questions we can. We try to get vendors in and on the right path to know and to be in the know, and that's what we try to do here. So, and we'll
Yeah,
continue to do the same. So,
and bring that lowest price, as Jessica said.
always.
It is, that's the world we're in. I could talk to you more, but I appreciate the time, you guys. I truly appreciate that, and thank you so much for joining the show. If people wanted to get a hold of you, is there any certain thing you want to put out there?
No, we have our email is purchasingdel at aurora.il.us, and our phone number is 630-256-3550.
Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate the time, and thank you.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Infrastructure Network.